Hello, everybody. It's another episode of That's Let's Talk Good Broncos. Let's get going. We got Will Keys. We got Zach Seegers. Well, it's been a very eventful week for Broncos country, and usually not so much going on in this period. But the owners meeting we had a free agent signing today. We had a lot of NFL rule changes. We're going to get to all of that. But first, let's get into the news that just broke, and that's the Broncos signing wide receiver Josh Reynolds. I believe it's 2 years, $15 million. Will, what is your take there? I know he had a pretty bad playoff performance. Is that deterring you from this at all?
That was to be honest, whether it's fair or not, the first thing I thought of with Josh Reynolds. He had those. Yeah. He catches those two passes in the NFC Championship game. Like, Lions probably go to the Super Bowl. But you look at his numbers. He's coming off of a career year, like 40 receptions, over 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. I don't know if we see that again, but he's a versatile dude. Like, can play outside, inside, good run blocker. I'm not going to pretend like I know who's a good run blocker at wide receiver or not. But everybody says he's a good run blocker. So I like that. It just gives you like a little bit of a floor as a wide receiver group, because Mims, who knows what we're going to get out of him. Patrick, who knows if he's going to stay on the field or not. And then you kind of know what you're going to get out of Sutton, hopefully. But it's just kind of a stabilizing force at wide receiver. So I like it. Pretty reasonable deal. Who knows what the option will look like for year 2. So, but overall, good deal.
Yeah, I feel like it raises the floor of your wide receiver room. He's not going to be Julio Jones out there or anything like that, right? He's not going to be your number one putting up 1,200 yards this year. But good wide receiver. Zach, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I feel really good. The Broncos were in a spot where who was starting alongside Marvin Mims and Courtland Sutton? You know what I mean? Not that Josh Reynolds is super exciting, but Tim Patrick signed a minimum contract. It's barely above the vet minimum with no guaranteed money. It's not very different from the contract Alex Singleton signed when he came on with the Broncos, where they could cut him in training camp and pay him nothing. It's such a low risk deal, which is extremely telling. They need someone in that room. They didn't have really anyone. This gives them someone, and it means they don't have to draft a receiver with one of their picks in the top 100 anymore. I think there's a good chance they still do, but they can more easily prioritize best player available, I think. And best player available is a myth in the NFL draft. Everyone's drafting for need. If you have a glaring need, people are drafting that position. Just look at what GMs do in the NFL draft. It's not like every time the best player available happens to also be a need. They're prioritizing needs. If you can limit how many glaring needs you have, it's easier to truly take the best player available. And the Broncos need to add talent. Plus, with how it's being reported at the up to 14 million, I expect it's a good bit under there. And I think this is probably a good contract for the Broncos. Seeing it reported that way, these are always reported from the agent side, and that's some obviously generous framing on that deal. So I'd say it's at least a couple million cheaper. Maybe it's even more, around 10 million, which would be a great deal.
Yeah, it feels like, to me, it falls right in line with the rest of the Broncos free agent signings this year, where we're not going out there. I mean, Josh Reynolds is the least splashiest wide receiver move I think I've ever seen in my life. If I'm being honest with you, I don't know who else. He is that prototypical. Yeah, he gets you 500 yards, in the season. He's your Andre Caldwell for Broncos fans. So that's what he feels like to me. Just not flashy, but when he gets his time, he's going to probably get the job done to, the level you're looking for. You're not going to go above it, but he's going to be right there. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like it's fine. I'm not over the moon about it. Like Will said, everyone's talking about he can block. That's exciting.
One interesting metric that shout out to Jacob Romano writing for us over at letstalkbroncos.com. He has an article that'll drop once I finish editing it after this show. And he had a great nugget in there about how Josh Reynolds was third in the NFL this past season in terms of win rate against man coverage. He beat man coverage. And that's determined by, do you create enough separation to be open on a play, or like for a pass to be targeted your way. So I don't know. I think that's a positive. That's something nice. Like, I think this is a reliable receiver that just raises the competency rate of this Broncos receiver room. You don't have to rely on undrafted free agents as much, which I think is really nice.
I think he also had like a passer rating when targeted of like 118 or something.
True.
Which is pretty high up there. I don't know if that's a Jared Goff stat or a Josh Reynolds stat, but I'll take it.
We're rolling with Josh Reynolds. That's what we're gonna do. We're rolling with Josh Reynolds stat.
Jared Goff, system quarterback.
Very system. He was in the Josh Reynolds system.
He is in the Josh Reynolds system. Now he's out of it. Let's see how he does.
Absolutely. So, hey, I want to change the topic a little bit. We talked enough about Josh Reynolds. His blocking skills, phenomenal. Let's talk about the NFL rule changes. I want to get your guys' opinion on the hip drop, because when I first saw it, I was like, what are we doing in the NFL nowadays, man? Did you guys share that with me?
Yeah, I really don't like it. I'm hopeful because of like some of the finer print details. Like they said, they charted about one of these types of tackles in a game. Like one per game all of last season, which gives hope that it's not just oh my God, this is happening every single time someone's getting tackled from behind thing. If it's truly just been once a game and it's only going to happen, like, it's still going to be annoying. But if it's just like, I don't know, 1 15-yard penalty every game, I think some of the reactions about it like completely changing the sport are probably a little over dramatic. That said, when you like watch the film of it, I think it's going to be a nightmare. I don't see like helmet to helmet's fairly obvious to legislate on a spectrum. You know, these plays happen very fast. It is difficult, but you hear two helmets clanking together. You see it, like, that's one thing. This hip drop thing, it feels like it's going to be so hard to legislate. I think we're going to see a lot of bad flags. The one thing I would say to people to not, become too doomcasty, we have seen the NFL immediately overturn bad rules. If this is a pain in year one and it's a lot of flags and it's bogging down the game and it's a mess and fans hate it, they will dial it back, just like they did with defensive pass interference reviews. The NFL is about making money, and if they think that this rule is going to ultimately hurt their product, they will run it back, or not run it back, but bring it back. I don't know, withdraw it. They'll burn it up.
What do you think, Will?
I've read a lot of articles and watched a lot of videos, and I still don't know what a hip drop tackle is.
Absolutely.
Like, I get it conceptually. Like, you're chasing a guy down from behind, and there's some kind of hip swivel going on, and you're unweighting. The terminology that they use is crazy. You're like de-weighting or unweighting. It just sounds like a tackle to me. And I think to Zach's point, like, we've put so much on the plate of the officials already in terms of what's a legal hit, what's roughing the passer, what's helmet to helmet. And to just throw this into the mix now too is going to be so confusing. And if I can't like figure out the difference between a normal tackle and a hip drop tackle, rewinding a video back and forth and going through it in slow motion a trillion times, how are they supposed to call it in real time on the field? So I don't know, like, inevitably, even if it is one a game, like, there will be one where it decides the outcome or like significantly alters, win probability or what have you. I get it. Like, I think it causes like 20 to 25% more injuries than, the average tackle, whatever you want to call that. But I don't know. I don't think we need to give them more to to digest as officials. And the NFLPA hated it too, which is pretty telling. If the players don't want it, what's the point? And this is all just a way to like distract from replacing turf fields anyway.
I've got a different conspiracy theory. This is about so one. I'm going to be super cynical with the NFL. I really like professional football. I enjoy it a lot. The NFL does not care about player safety. They had to have their arm twisted so hard for them to like give money to retired players dealing with like the damages of concussions or just playing the game. Like they
tell the truth.
They're not like just super invested in it. They are doing this for other reasons, and it's because they want to see offense dial up. This Fangio style defense has I think offenses are still moving the ball well, but it's really dropped scoring. And I think this is the NFL trying to answer that.
Yeah, it's like 5.5 points since 2020.
Yeah, it slowed the game down is what has happened. So now that like this hip drop tackle, if an offensive player gets in front of the defense, how do I tackle him? That's really, I feel like what's going on now.
Totally. And it's not even just those like breakaway plays where it's like, oh, he's got one man to beat. How's that last man bringing him down? And now you've got a bigger explosive. It's also like these classic Shanahan concepts we're seeing, or talk about like Ben Johnson, Sean Payton, these offensive minds that are great at drawing it up to give a player the ball in space with a running start. You got a guy in like trailing him in coverage. It's going to be a pain for that guy to tackle him. You're going to probably get 4 or 5 more yards on the catch. Or if that guy tries to tackle the traditional way, maybe you're picking up 15 yards on a penalty. This is the type of rule that benefits Marvin Mims, in my opinion. Good day for Marvin Mims in terms of the rule changes. This one benefited him.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought Will said it perfectly. Like, what is a hip drop? Because what's going to happen is no matter if they could call it perfectly, I'm still going to be outraged. I have no clue. And everybody in the stadium, it's not like a helmet to helmet. When a hard hit happens, we see it, the whole crowd goes silent for a second because we're waiting for the flag. The hip drop, that's not happening. We think that's a normal tackle. The flag's going to come out and outrage is going to happen right after. They need to do a better job at like educating the fan of what that means, what's going on here, because right now I'm telling you, nobody's going to understand what's going on ever. And that's bad. For me, I have a girlfriend that doesn't understand the NFL at all, and I try to explain some things to her. It's impossible. I don't even know how you go and explain a hip drop tackle. I barely understand. And the casual fan barely understands. The expert barely understands. So, yeah, it's just all very confusing.
Yeah, I was at a Super Bowl party watching the Chiefs 49ers game. And when it went to overtime, people were like, so what happens if, they kick a field goal and they come back and kick a field goal? Also, what happens if the first period runs out? Do the 49ers get the ball back? And I'm like, actually, I don't know. I have no idea. That's how I feel about the hip drop tackle. It's like, well, that could be. He looks like he de-weighted there and had a 45-degree swivel. So let's throw the flag. Also, a lot of people were pointing out, would the 1 yard short Kevin Dyson play have been a hip drop tackle? Mm-hmm. They've gotten half the distance to the goal there and an untimed down. I don't know. Man. I still don't know because I don't know what it looks like.
We don't know. We have no clue.
The best I can gather, and I could totally be wrong here because I'm with you guys. It's confusing, but just watching it, the best I can gather is it's when like you swing your legs, like you're behind a guy on one side, and as you tackle him, you kind of swing your legs to kind of, swivel the weight and kind of pull him down from behind that way. That results in a lot of people falling on ankles or whatever. I have no idea. It's going to be, there's no way it's getting legislated correctly. Like it will sometimes, but it's going to be, in my opinion, a total pain. I liked Kratz's comment. I'm assuming sarcastic, that you can't wait for the Chiefs to win a playoff game because of a bad hip drop call. That feels like it's written in stone. That's coming in the next 2 years, guaranteed.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is going to break free through the middle of the defense, running his 5.3 speed and someone's going to come behind and unweight and swivel those hips.
Oh my God.
Harrison Butker will be in field goal range.
Just wait until a player hip drops a quarterback in the pocket. That player might be banned.
Oh, double.
You might never see that player again.
Dropping the passer.
Yeah.
30-yard penalty.
That's not a good one. But let's talk about the kickoff. Let's talk about the kickoff return. That's completely changed. Kickoff and kickoff return. The players are now 5 yards apart. And it's very interesting to me. I was reading a thread on it from the person. Zach sent it to me, actually. And it was from the person that designed it. And he was talking about all the differences in it and the differences in personnel you're going to want. How do you guys feel about the new kickoff? Me personally, I'm more open to this than I am the hip drop, just because at one point in time, the kick return was really exciting. And over the years, now it has not become. So, Will, what do you think of the kickoff now?
Yeah, I feel like I was one of like 7 people who actually watched a few XFL games last year. So I like understand it fundamentally. And I think it is good that now the return is a part of the game as opposed to something like 80% of kickoffs resulting in touchbacks. And we're all Broncos fans. So, you can up that to like 95% of kickoffs we saw just went through the end zone.
Yeah.
So this is exciting. To see special teams as a bigger factor in the game, especially when you've got a Pro Bowl kick returner in Marvin Mims. That's nice. My only gripe is just like I'm kind of a football traditionalist. I just like how the old kickoff looks.
Yeah.
It's just such a part of starting a game to me that I'm just kind of like a get off my porch kind of guy when it comes to disrupting like very seminal plays in the structure of football. Also, they should have moved it back to the 30 and not the 35. I think that would be. I think that would make more sense because now they're still kicking it from the 35, which was to get more touchbacks when they changed the rule, like whatever it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I fully agree. I do think it's going to be cool. It's going to look super weird. Like the next time I play Madden in Madden 25, 26, whenever.
Zach, I have news for you, man. They're not putting that in the next Madden.
They're running back the exact same code.
Yeah, you're starting at the 25-yard line in the new Madden.
Yeah.
You can't go that.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be a big learning curve. I think it's going to look kind of boring the first half of the season. And then as teams start to figure it out, I think it's going to get really cool into like year 2, especially of this rule. It's basically replacing the kickoff with like spread out run play. Which means like there's a lot of potential to like design some cool looking, creative, entertaining stuff. There's a lot of opportunity for big plays for the returning team because they can design those things. And because these designs are probably going to have pitches and reverses and all these crazy things happening, there's also more potential for things to go horribly wrong, which is also entertaining. Like I think it's a big win for the sport. I would have been fine if they went to like the 4th and 15 rule or like, the alternative seemed to be just automatically starting at the 25. This at least kind of keeps special teams a factor, makes it interesting. And Joey's point about like the personnel changes, I'm really curious to see how that plays out. The guy that from that thread highlighted a couple things, highlighted like yards after the catch ability, as something that would be valuable there. I think Mims could be great in this new rule. He also highlighted that running backs may thrive more in this system. And I don't know, kind of that like returnerish style with like the vision of a running back made me think of Jaleel McLaughlin a little. I don't know, maybe he gets a little more usage, or Samaje Perine even. I think he was. Did he get any punt return snaps? Am I totally making that up? Maybe I am. But maybe he was in training camp. I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a whole new thing to talk about. I like it.
I think they should have gone back to the original XFL rule where you have two guys at the goal line and you put the ball at the 50-yard line and you just say, go get it.
The one that got a player a season-ending injury on the very first play of the
Yeah.
No, I mean, it sounds fun. That is what we're here for. It is funny because I feel like this kickoff combined with the hip drop is gonna. I bet you on this kickoff, this new kickoff, we get more hip drop tackles than any other play. I almost guarantee you. I saw someone
style of it,
talk about. Could you like? There's certain players on this. Like, could you imagine?
Debo,
like prime Adrian Peterson or something like this on this new kickoff thing, where you're taking the ball everyone's 5 yards apart and you have all these gaps. It's like an extended run play. It's going to be crazy. I feel like it's less about speed and quickness. This is where I'm like, ooh, I don't know how Marvin Mims fits this. And it's, I think, more about size and power plus speed in this new, and vision. Like Derrick Henry, Adrian Peterson, these are the type of players I feel would be insane on this new kickoff return.
I think you also need that like lateral quickness though. Like I think a Debo Samuel, they probably won't play him on it. But like I think he would eat on these plays. I'm trying to think who else is really good after the catch, like AJ Brown, I think. Again, you wouldn't play him on that. I'm trying to, who would be really good at this now, Joey? Who do you think would be who's going to be the new best returner in the NFL?
Best on this?
Just in the NFL.
Yards after catch players, unfortunately.
In the NFL.
That's a good question.
It is a good question. I'm trying to think of running backs. I feel like this is a running back play.
Saquon in Philly?
Maybe Saquon. Saquon would be really interesting on this.
They wouldn't do it.
I just thought of like Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara. Yeah, totally. I think everyone that can bounce off tackles and has really good vision and some speed, you're going to have to be able to carry after that. This is more to that than just straight line speed, which is what we've seen in kick returners in the past. Like, I would be really curious to see how Trendon Holiday, who is one of the best returners I've ever seen, would fit in this new thing, right?
Oh, I know. Devon A-Chain. We saw him bounce off some tackles, and he's like, I know you're saying it's not about.
Yeah, we saw him bounce off a lot of tackles.
You need a lot of like it is going to have more power elements, but he's got that like running back vision and everything. He's got incredible speed. I think he's not, he's not a feather. He's not just getting like knocked over by nothing. I don't know. I think he'll tear it up.
I think you could like actually see teams use more prominent players just because, it's not a 20% chance they're even going to touch the ball or run it out. And you don't have guys running at you from however many, 65 yards away anymore. So it's not as dangerous. It factors in more to field position.
You're absolutely right.
They might use some actual guys back there.
I think you're so right, Will, because is this more dangerous or less effective than a regular run play? Like if my starting running back, like I feel like I would play him in this situation. I don't know why I wouldn't.
Yeah, as long as you can catch the ball.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the potential for upside is way higher. It's not just like the risk is lower. Returns so rarely, popped for a touchdown in the NFL. If you had like 3 in a season as a single team, it was pretty rare. Some of it might have just been like bad XFL players, but it did result in like a lot more explosive returns, a much higher rate in the XFL than what the NFL was experiencing. So, put your best players in there to try and maximize. You can utilize it as pretty much an extra offensive play you get to start every drive with. And I think the smart offensive minds will take advantage of it. And I think I'm very glad the Broncos have Sean Payton as a mind to help draw that stuff up. I know special teams isn't necessarily his thing, but it's going to have a lot of run game ideas to it. I'm glad you have Sean Payton and Pete Carmichael drawing that up instead of Nate Hackett and Justin Outen or Vic Fangio and Pat Shurmur. I think this is a much better place to be.
Yeah, we officially can't open the season with a surprise onside kick this year.
That's the lame part of it. That's
Yeah.
the one part that I think sucks is that you have to like declare if you're doing an onside kick or not. They need to fix the onside kick rule. That's hopefully
Right.
the second stage of this. Replace that with like a 4th and 25 or whatever. But yeah, that's a different conversation.
All right. Well, okay. So let's talk about the new uniforms, though. New uniforms are coming to Broncos country. The president of the team announced this. So I'm interested. Are you guys excited about this? Because me personally, I'm a little nervous. I've been saying this for a couple of years now. New uniforms always sound great. It sounds great until you get the two-tone Jacksonville Jaguars jerseys. It sounds good until I get an orange and blue helmet at the same time. Like, that's not what I want. So how do you feel about this, Zach?
Okay, here's the thing. I feel excited about it. I do agree. It could go bad. It could. There's some things to be concerned about. The rumored mountains on the shoulder pads, which seem to be confirmed by I think it was Leach making the comment about there's going to be some nods to the geography. I think Penner said that too, actually. So I think the mounds on the shoulder pads are confirmed. I think there's ways that could look good and ways it could look bad. I immediately think of like the Nuggets shorts. They've had multiple different versions of like mountains on the side. And some of them have looked really awesome. And some have not. I think some of the mock-ups that are a lot more basic and just like 3 spikes, man, if that's what it is, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. So there is the potential for it to be bad. I think the current uniforms aren't good. I think they haven't aged well. I think they are very 2002, 2001. They have that early Reebok look, just like the Cardinals ones and the Falcons ones and the Texans ones that all got changed and needed to be changed. Some of those redesigns I think have turned out well. Some haven't. Falcons, not great. But I don't know. I would like, we know one is bad. Yes, maybe the next one is bad too. And then if it's really bad, we already saw this with the Cleveland Browns. If it's really bad, they'll just get rid of it and listen to what all the fans want and probably give us the updated throwbacks people have all been clamoring for. That's what, or the Jaguars. You mentioned the two-tone things that lasted like 3-4 years because they were like, what were we? And that ugly mustard color, tossed it out of here. I think we're going to see the same thing for the Falcons. Weird overall gradient. That's going to be gone in a couple of years here. There is some downside, absolutely, but they currently have a bad uniform. What, just exist forever with a bad uniform?
I don't like the orange on white uniforms. I think the blue on whites and the blue on blues and the all whites are pretty good. The all whites with the blue pants with the stripes that didn't match were just an abomination. And kind of perfect for like when they were wearing them in the middle of 2022 and everything was falling apart.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. Like if they do suck, which I gun to my head, yeah, they probably will. But there is a rule. I think you do have to, when you switch your uniform, you do have to keep it for 4 years, something like that.
But we've seen teams do just that minimum amount of time and then be like, nope, all right, that was bad.
Yeah. I think do you guys know about this? Like the 49ers in the 90s tried out that they introduced this new logo during a press conference. I think it was 94.
Really?
Yes. You can find it online. It's like the Bartolo and maybe George Seifert in a press conference, like with the helmet, new logo.
Yeah, I remember that.
Terrible. And they got such bad backlash that they just canceled it after they unveiled it. So I think if we all collectively hate it and we complain enough, I think we could at least get like a reprieve of some kind.
Right.
But no, I mean, this at the end of the day, this is the biggest layup of all time. Like everybody said, let's just go back to the 80s, 90s uniforms. And the, Leach and Penner and Walden are all like, we're listening to the fans. We're listening to the fans. If you're really listening to us, like we know what the uniforms would be. It was so simple, but I think Nike wants to get involved and kind of put their own stamp on it. And, they want to they're people with egos too. It's not a faceless corporation. They want to try to be creative, and I don't know. I think the Texans' new uniform, which I did not like, makes me concerned as well. I didn't think that was an upgrade whatsoever.
You know what makes me concerned, Will? It's that I have never so I've seen a lot of people make photoshops of new Broncos jerseys, right?
Yeah, so many.
In so many different Broncos jerseys I've seen. The only one I like is the one where it's like a throwback.
Yeah.
I've yet to see a new version of the Broncos that's like, oh, here's a mock-up. Here's a different one. Here's a new look. They all suck. All of them suck. So I'm like, okay, so what's coming? Like you said, the layup is obviously the one everybody has voted on. I don't even have to explain it because everyone knows what I'm talking about. If you're a Broncos fan, you know exactly the jersey I'm talking about. And the talk about mountains on the shoulder pad already get me scared.
Yeah, it's just so corny. It's like we know that we know about the Rocky Mountains. We get it.
No, you've seen the games before. You're definitely getting a mile above sea level reference somewhere else on the jersey. You're gonna get a bunch. Yeah. This is what we're talking about.
That's all we wanted. That's all we wanted.
Everyone was so and like some people didn't. Bree's one of those people, but 70% of the fan base would have been thrilled, like so enthusiastically happy. And it's not the exact same as what they had in the 70s. It would be updated. Those shoulder straps, not a thing in the 70s. It would be a different version. You could have some tweaks to express your creativity. It seems like that's what they're doing anyways. It seems like it's going to be pretty similar to the 97 version, but just with some tweaks or what they've been wearing these last 10 years, but just that kind of modernized. So I don't know why they didn't listen to the fans. By the way, I also found the 49ers logo that Will was talking about.
That's a tough
no way. That is so bad.
Yeah, with one of the 3 most iconic logos in NFL history, and they're like, nope, we need to trot out that local news logo looking thing.
This looks like it should be on like a bubblegum wrapper.
Yeah,
this is terrible. This is the worst thing I've ever seen.
So of the time too.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. All right. Well, we've got enough complaining about the jerseys that we haven't seen yet. Let's talk about the NFL owners meeting because I thought that was super interesting. There was that picture of all the head coaches together. Some coaches weren't included in it, just a handful. Sean Payton being one of them. No, it doesn't shock me at all. I don't think Sean Payton likes any of these people. Did you guys have a take from that picture at all, or were you just like, it is whatever?
I'm always like, it's always such a fun picture to go through and kind of look at these freaks try to be human for a couple moments. And, naturally you gravitate to Andy Reid and whoever decided to wear shorts, but and they're always looking into the sun too.
Yeah.
They're always like squinting into the sun. So it would have been fun to see Sean. But like you said, I don't think he likes a single person on earth.
No. I feel like he heard some of their takes on the hip drop and couldn't even be seen with them. I feel like that's what happened there. Zach, do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, Richmond Flowers has burnt all his bridges. Nate Hackett and Richmond Flowers are out here turning all the coaches against him on that Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan tree, which is like 80% of the coaches in the league.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we did get some pressers out of that too. Some questions from media, and he made it very clear to Ian Rappaport, and even went at Ian Rappaport a little bit, where it was like, I saw your report about how we're not trading up. Matter of fact, it's realistic we might trade up, which I found very curious because we're a month away from the draft, and our head coach is talking about if he were telling the truth, that would be a bad move. I feel. I don't believe that it's the truth. When I rewatched the video, it felt to me like it was like, Ian, what are you doing? Like, I want these guys to think everything's on the table. You ruling something out there, is not good for what we're trying to do. Zach, what did you make of that little back and forth they had?
Yeah, well, I guess what's one thing we know the Broncos want to do potentially, or that everyone is kind of connecting with the Broncos, including the fan base, trading down. All right. So if the Broncos are having these conversations with teams trying to trade down, the one thing that's going to hurt your leverage the most is if teams think you already want that to happen. It's like, oh, well, we're kind of doing you a solid with this trade down. You get to move down 5 spots, you pick up a third, you guys need the draft capital. Raise the price, make it seem like that's not something you want to do, like you're having to sacrifice something, like this is a pain for you, and maybe you get a better deal. It's like, but I think it's just basic negotiating. I don't think it wouldn't surprise me either. I do think trading up is probably on the table. I'd be surprised if the Broncos haven't discussed those conversations or like situations with themselves and had conversations with like different teams about those scenarios. But yeah, I would not listen to what Sean Payton says all that much. Like, he knows how to play the media game. He's more connected to media people than most any coach in the league. He knows what he's doing in regard to like talking to the media and creating narratives and whatnot.
Will, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I don't put a lot of stock in it, and that doesn't mean like I don't think it could happen. I just don't think this makes it any more likely or less likely. They're already at such a disadvantage in terms of trading up because for like 3 reasons. The Vikings kind of stockpiled. You got the Chargers as one of those teams with kind of a premier landing spot, like 5 or 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not, 5. They're not going to trade with us, most likely, because trading up, we're going for a quarterback, and they're not going to just let that happen. And they just don't have, obviously, like we've said this all along, they don't have a lot of picks or assets really. So it's tough, but then you have, what intrigues me is like now the revisionist history that JJ McCarthy's now a top 3 quarterback in the draft is kind of throwing like a monkey wrench into all of this, and say like, and I don't know that they like Drake May more than anybody else, but say Drake May falls out of the top 3 or top 4, wherever. Now that makes it interesting. You don't have to trade up into 1, 2, 3. You find a willing trade partner, and you don't have to give up quite as much to get a guy who was previously the 2nd overall pick consensus. I don't know. I think that makes sense if they're really, really, drawn to him.
I think so too. I definitely think so. That is a really interesting scenario. It feels like the Vikings are the Broncos' biggest threats right now to trade up, just because they went and got another 1st-round pick not too long ago. They have 2 now. Not only are they just above the Broncos with their 1st-round pick, now they have 2 1st-round picks to trade and get a guy. But if they ended up, here's my scenario. If they end up trading to, everyone's imagining them going to pick 4, but there's a lot of smoke out there with the Patriots, and if they punt on quarterback, there's a lot behind that. If they ended up trading back with the Patriots, a 4th quarterback is coming, and that would also make it easier for the Broncos to get that guy. Just different scenarios right now for the Broncos. I'm just laying out. Zach, what is your opinion on Will and I's scenario at getting quarterback here? We're doing Broncos fan fiction right now.
I'm a fan of it. I just want something to be figured out at quarterback. I'm kind of just getting ready for a year of Jarrett Stidham. I don't think that would be the worst thing ever, but I'll take any fantasy scenario at this point over what we're staring down the barrel of.
All right. Well, if we want to add on to that, the Broncos had a 4 to 5 hour long private meeting with JJ McCarthy. That sounds grueling to me. Oh my God, I would be losing my mind. Sean Payton, I like you, man. I can't talk to you for 4 or 5 hours.
It's like a full Joe Rogan podcast. Like, I always wonder, like, what do they do during those meetings? Do they stop and get lunch or something? And does that count in terms of like allotted time during the meeting? I guess they had him throw too, from what I heard.
Yeah, it's a Joe Rogan podcast without any of the smoke or any of the drink.
Yeah.
It's a terrible situation.
Sean Payton ripping the bong in hour 3.
I mean, I could be mistaken. Zach, what do you think? Should I be connecting any dots to the Broncos to JJ McCarthy after a 4 to 5 hour long meeting?
Definitely. I think NFL teams like this guy. I think he probably did really well in the meeting rooms. I think there's probably a better chance of Jaden Daniels or like Drake May being the surprise fall guy than JJ McCarthy right now. I think some of that is JJ McCarthy seems like a really natural projection into the Shanahan offenses. And as I kind of just joked about a couple of minutes ago, everyone in the league is coming off that tree now. So I think that's a factor of it, but I don't know. I do think the Broncos have legitimate interest. I think they have legitimate interest in all of these top 6 guys. I think, there's a good chance they take Bo Nix in the first round. One thing I will say though, I don't think Sean Payton, who is going to be the one making this decision, is telling really anyone anything. I don't think anything's leaking out of the Broncos facility right now. And I think a lot of the connecting the dots on quarterbacks we've seen has just been that, connecting the dots on quarterbacks. JJ McCarthy was rumored to the Broncos when everyone thought he was going to go in the teens or tweens, whatever. And then as he started climbing up to being a top 6, top 4 projected pick, it was Bo Nix because he's the next best quarterback and the Denver Broncos need a quarterback. If Bo Nix starts becoming a surefire top, if Spencer Rattler something skyrockets, in terms of stock and starts getting talked about as a top 20-ish pick, he'll start getting tied to the Broncos. Whether or not I think there's actual leaks connecting him there, and that's because the Broncos do need a quarterback. I don't know. I don't really trust the sourcing, but I think it's the reality of the situation. They need a quarterback. So
they should also be doing their due diligence on every quarterback, that's not Caleb Williams, probably.
See, I'm the type of GM where I'm bringing the smoke and drink. I'm getting I'm getting your true thoughts. I want your honest opinions. I'm kidding. But let's move on. Let's talk about let's end on this one because this is the funniest conversation to me. Sean Payton was asked about, hey, was it tough cutting Russ? Even with the dead cap situation, he just said no and looked away. It's very simple. Do you think he hates Russell Wilson, Zach Seegers?
Yeah, 1,000%. I'm sorry. We just saw these people have a very public civil war, going to all their friends and talking shit about each other. All their media buddies talking shit about each other and putting it out. Russ went over to Jordan Schultz and was like, Sean Payton sucks and was a meanie. And Sean Payton went to Schefter and Rappaport and was like, well, Russell Wilson, I tried to change things for him, but Russell Wilson couldn't learn the offense. And we just saw this whole high school breakup unfold before us. I think, yeah, they don't like each other. I think now you see Russell Wilson with the Steelers, and every single day he's wearing a new Steelers shirt and matching Steelers accessories after it was all RW3 stuff in Denver. And it feels like a very petty breakup. I love it. I love my coaches openly being grumpy. It's just funny to me. This is a very funny example. I also will always remember Vic Fangio going, it is Drew's after hyping up Teddy's birthday so much. That is my girlfriend and I still quote that to each other. My girlfriend doesn't really watch football, not a biggest Broncos fan, but we still on a fairly regular basis will be like, it is Drew's, because it is so great, so funny.
It is funny. Yeah. Hey, well, it's good stuff. I like it. I like it. It's fun. It brings it's part of the entertainment of football to me. A grumpy coach is part of NFL football. That's like bringing the old kickoff back. If they ban grumpy coaches, it'd be a bad thing.
Look, you ban grumpy coaches, there's not going to be any coaches left.
No, you're going to have 32 Nathaniel Hackett's. It's
it's going to be the worst league of all time.
Well, Zach, before we sign out, I want you to promo our little thing we have going on. Can you do that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone that we're announcing this right now, LTB announcement. Woo, woo, woo. We are having a live NFL draft show during the first round of the draft at the Rock Restaurant and Bar in Aurora, Colorado, Denver area. If you're a fan of the show, swing by, check it out. We'll have merch stuff to give away. We'll have we'll be there live. There's going to be drink specials and like food specials. So if you're going to be watching the draft anyways, go somewhere where it can be fun, do all that stuff. And I believe we're going to be having some really cool special guests dropping by. Before I drop real names, I want to make sure we have those locked up, but some really cool people that I think Broncos country in particular would be very excited by. So go check it out. And yeah, meet the crew, watch the draft with us, talk Broncos with us, and get some free stuff.
Cool. Well, guys, thank you for joining us today. Again, this is Will Keys. To the right of me, Zach Seegers and Joey Rickards. But until next time, guys, go Broncos.